Are you curious about Gran Turismo's iconic cars? Then come on, let's dive in. When Gran Turismo launched on the PlayStation in 1997, it didn't just arrive as another racing game, it redefined what racing games could be. At a time when the genre was dominated by fast-paced arcade experiences, Gran Turismo introduced a bold and unexpected idea. What if a racing game could feel real? This question alone changed everything. To understand how revolutionary Gran Turismo was, you need to look at the gaming landscape of the mid-90s. Titles like Need for Speed and Ridge Racer were hugely popular. They focused on speed, excitement, and accessibility. Cars drifted effortlessly, physics were forgiving, and races were designed to be instantly fun rather than deeply engaging. Gran Turismo took the opposite approach. Developed by Polyphony Digital under the direction of Kazunori Yamauchi, the game introduced a philosophy that treated driving as a skill to be learned, not just a mechanic to be used. Suddenly, braking too late meant losing control. Accelerating too early meant spinning out. Every action had a consequence. This was not just a racing game. It was a simulation, the driving philosophy that changed everything. Gran Turismo didn't just give you cars, it taught you how to drive them. For many players, this was their first exposure to real driving concepts. The game subtly introduced ideas like racing lines, weight transfer, and throttle control. You began to understand that winning wasn't about going full speed at all times. It was about control, timing, and precision. The core loop became clear. Brake, turn, accelerate. Simple in theory, but incredibly difficult to master. Unlike arcade racers, where mistakes were easily forgiven, Gran Turismo demanded discipline. You had to slow down to go faster. You had to respect the limits of your car. Over time, players didn't just improve in the game, they developed a deeper understanding of driving itself. This shift in philosophy made Gran Turismo feel more like a learning experience than a traditional game. Track design, where skill meets mastery. While the cars were the stars, the tracks were the stage where everything came together. Tracks like Trial Mountain and High Speed Ring weren't just backdrops, they were challenges to be understood. Each track had its own rhythm, its own flow, and its own demands. Trial Mountain tested precision and technical skill. Tight corners forced you to manage speed carefully, while elevation changes challenged your control. High Speed Ring, on the other hand, was about flow. It rewarded smooth driving, consistency, and maintaining momentum. What made these tracks special was how they interacted with the cars. A powerful car might dominate on a high-speed track but struggle on a technical one. A lightweight car might excel in corners but fall behind on straights. This created a dynamic relationship between car and track, something rarely seen in games at the time. Iconic cars, machines that became legends. Gran Turismo's car list was revolutionary. With over 100 licensed vehicles, it introduced players to real automotive culture in a way no game had before. Manufacturers like Nissan, Toyota, Honda, and Mazda were brought to life with incredible attention to detail. And within that list, certain cars stood out forever. The Nissan Skyline GT-R R34 became a symbol of control and power. Its all-wheel drive system allowed players to push limits without losing stability. The Toyota Supra MK4 represented raw potential. With the right tuning, it could become one of the fastest cars in the game. The Mazda RX-7 taught precision. Its lightweight design rewarded skilled drivers who mastered cornering. The Honda NSX offered perfect balance, becoming a favorite for players who valued consistency. But the legends didn't stop there. The Nissan Silvia S13 became a favorite for players experimenting with control and style. Each car wasn't just a stat sheet, it was a personality. PS1 limitations, and a technical masterpiece. What makes Gran Turismo even more impressive is the hardware it ran on. The original PlayStation was limited. Graphics were simple, memory was constrained, and processing power was nowhere near modern standards. And yet, Gran Turismo delivered something extraordinary. Instead of focusing purely on visual fidelity, the developers prioritized feel. The physics engine was designed to simulate real driving behavior, even if the graphics couldn't fully match it. This decision changed everything. Cars felt different. Weight mattered. Speed felt real, not because of visuals but because of how the game responded to your inputs. It was a perfect example of design over technology. Sound design and atmosphere. Why it felt alive. One of the most overlooked aspects of Gran Turismo was its atmosphere. At first glance, it didn't seem flashy. There were no explosive effects, no exaggerated crashes, no cinematic chaos. But once you spent time with it, something felt different. Felt real. The sound design played a huge role in this. Engine sounds, while limited by hardware, were carefully designed to reflect the identity of each car. You could hear the difference between a high-revving engine and a heavier, more powerful machine. It wasn't perfect, but it was intentional. Menus also contributed to the atmosphere. Clean layouts, minimalistic design, and calm background music created a sense of focus. It didn't rush you. It didn't overwhelm you. It respected your time. Gran Turismo created an environment where you could think, plan, and improve. And that was rare. Car culture introduction, a gateway for a generation. For many players, Gran Turismo wasn't just a game. It was their first introduction to real car culture. Before this, most players didn't know the difference between brands like Nissan and Mazda. They didn't understand drivetrain types, horsepower differences, or tuning potential. Gran Turismo changed that. Players began to recognize car names. They started to understand which cars were fast, which were balanced, and which required skill. More importantly, they started to care. This was the moment when gaming and real-world passion intersected. For some players, Gran Turismo wasn't just entertainment. It was the beginning of a lifelong interest in cars. Game structure, why it felt so complete. Another reason Gran Turismo stood out was how complete it felt. It wasn't just races. It was a full ecosystem. You had dealerships to explore, used car markets to discover hidden gems, upgrade shops to improve performance, license tests to prove skill. Everything was connected. Nothing felt random. Every system served a purpose. This level of cohesion made the game feel more like a simulation platform than a simple racing title. You weren't just participating, you were progressing through a structured world. The discipline factor. Why it wasn't for everyone. Gran Turismo was not an easy game. And that was intentional. Unlike arcade racers, it didn't try to appeal to everyone instantly. It demanded patience. It required effort. It expected players to improve. For some, this was frustrating. But for others, it was exactly what made the game special. Because when you finally mastered a difficult track, when you finally passed a challenging license test, when you finally controlled a powerful car perfectly, felt earned. Gran Turismo didn't give you satisfaction. It made you work for it. Progression system. Why it was so addictive. Gran Turismo wasn't just about racing. It was about earning your way to the top. You didn't start with supercars. You started small. A used car. Limited credits. Basic races. Every win mattered. Every upgrade felt earned. This created one of the most satisfying progression systems in gaming. Players became attached to their cars because they built them over time. They remembered their first upgrade, their first big win, and the moment they finally afforded a dream car. It created a powerful loop. Race, earn, upgrade, improve, repeat. And it never got old. Replay value, why players kept coming back. Even after completing races and unlocking cars, players kept returning to Gran Turismo. Why? Because the game was never truly finished. There was always something left. A faster lap time, a better tuning setup, a new car to master. Each session felt like an opportunity to improve. This created an endless loop of engagement, not through artificial content but through mastery. And mastery has no limit. Player psychology, why it hooked you. Gran Turismo understood something many games didn't. Players don't just want to win. They want to improve. The game constantly pushed you to get better. License tests forced you to refine your skills. Difficult races challenged your patience. Small improvements led to big rewards. And then there was the feeling of just one more race. You were always close to something. A new car, a better upgrade, a tougher challenge. This kept players engaged for hours. Not because the game forced them to stay, but because they wanted to. Legacy, the game that defined a genre. Gran Turismo didn't just succeed, it created a blueprint. Modern franchises like Forza Motorsport built upon its foundation. The idea of realistic driving, licensed cars, and deep customization became standard. It also influenced real-world car culture. Players learned about brands, models, and performance differences. Some even developed a passion for cars because of this game. Gran Turismo didn't just simulate driving. It inspired it. Gran Turismo was never just a game. At its core, Gran Turismo was more than a racing experience. It was a driving school, a car collection simulator, progression journey, passion project. Taught players patience. Taught them control. It taught them respect for speed, for machines, and for skill. Even today, decades later, its impact is still felt. Because Gran Turismo didn't just create realistic racing. It created a connection between players and cars. And that's why it's not just remembered. It's respected, studied. It's legendary. If you enjoyed this and want more deep dives like this, be sure to subscribe to Retro Game Stories.